Alright, this is like my sixth take on this video. I'm gonna keep this one pretty short, and I'm gonna try to compress everything that I've said. So this is John Baldwin. He's been using Linux for 2 years. He uses Kubuntu, or like Linux Mint with KDE, whatever he wants to use that day. But he makes the argument in some of his videos that he will help you install Linux, and he thinks it's gonna be easy. In my experience, I don't think it's that easy, and I kind of want to talk about Windows though instead of Linux today because, I mean, obviously installing Linux is easy for those of us that know how to write a USB and boot into it and then run the installer and all that shit. But your average person has never even installed Windows before, and I think that's kind of what's crippling us right now is that people on Windows have never like installed Windows and anything they've done on Windows has been from within Windows. They never actually had to deal with their BIOS before. And of course gamers will go in and fucking edit their XMP settings and whatever, but the average user doesn't, like, if you showed them what a BIOS is, they'd probably be like, how the fuck did you get into that? What the fuck is that? um, and I think that's kind of why it's hard to sell people on an operating system, is because the average person doesn't have any clue anything about how to install an operating system. They don't know how to write the USB, they don't know how to boot into it, they don't know how to install it. And Windows, I think, is a lot harder than people make it out to be. I'm gonna go through what I have to go with, or what I'm gonna talk about what I have to go through when I'm reselling a computer. So the first thing I do is I have a Windows 10 education USB. I could use Windows 11 with TPM requirements bypassed, but I just use Windows 10. It's fine. Maybe I'll write a Windows 11 USB soon, and then that'll work out fine too. And I really need to update my USB anyways. So usually a computer will come with Windows 10 or 11 Home or Pro. And my first job is to wipe that off and install a semi-annual release channel, which would be Education or Enterprise. The reason I do this is because retail is very unstable, and I don't like being on that release channel. And I don't think that the people buying the computer will like having their computer be super unstable and update all the fucking time. So instead, I replace it with a semi-annual release channel, which is generally less bloated. Has more features, I guess, in terms of like group policy editor. It doesn't have any of the useless bloat features, so I guess I would say it has less features, but it has more administrative control in case they want that. For whatever reason, if they ever see a guide that says, oh, they added this in group policy editor, they'll have that installed. And on rare occasion, if I can't get that to boot, I've got a Windows 10 LTSC ISO on a flash drive, and I've had to install that on a couple of computers, like a ThinkPad T430, which I couldn't get normal Windows 10 to boot for some reason, but I think the computer is old enough that I wasn't using UEFI, and so I had it mounted as MBR. Anyways, but when I use LTSC, here's kind of the problem I'm coming at again, is that the average person doesn't know how to use Windows. So if they see that they open up a picture and nothing opens with it, it'll say, oh, you need a new application to open this. They will send the computer back and they'll say, I don't know how the fuck to open this. And if I had just installed Nomax Image Lounge and VLC in order to open video files and open images, they wouldn't have sent it back and they would have been fine. And LTSC I kind of reserve for computers that need to be extremely debloated, like where they come with 64 gigs of eMMC storage or something. They're like a netbook, because I'm not going to keep Windows 10 S on there, and I can't deactivate the S mode or whatever. I can't change it to normal Windows 10. Because I don't use a Microsoft account to sign in, and I have to make the laptop demoable, so I create a new user, and it's easier just to wipe off the entire drive when I do that. So that's usually what I do, is I'll replace Windows 10 with with Education, and that makes the computer more stable. It makes it easier for the person to use. It doesn't have all this shit popping up all over the place. Doesn't have a lot of ads. I don't think it has nearly any ad services enabled. And then I can bloat it with whatever I'm told to bloat it with. So all that is kind of a roundabout way of saying the average person doesn't even know how to use a computer. Like, you give them Windows and they don't know what the fuck to do with it. The only reason they're surviving is because everything, like, you're already in Windows and you're kind of forced to learn how to use it. And I've had customers come in and say they don't even know how the fuck to type in their email address on the keyboard because Sticky Keys isn't enabled by default. I mean, this is, the average person is not tech savvy at all, and I think trying to sell Linux to them is kind of a fruitless effort. That was really all I wanted to talk about. Just kind of doom and gloom, you know? I don't think that we're at a point in human history where people need to know how to use a computer anymore. I don't think they've ever known how to use a computer, and I don't think they ever will. So there's really no point in trying to save them. That's kind of where Windows' selling point is because it comes pre-installed on the computer. It is the only thing you can use because there's no fucking way you're gonna know how to switch that without first delving into the weeds, learning how your BIOS works, and learning how to write a USB. I mean, that's too much to ask of the average person. Like, geez. But if you were to give them a computer with Linux pre-installed, I think they would actually have a pretty good time. But that was just my 2 cents on it. Alright, see ya.